Chosen one, the transformation didn't begin with applause or outside confirmation. It began in silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the sacred stillness where truth is born. Something deep within you turned, a key in an ancient lock, and the persona you once wore as armor began to dissolve. Not overnight, not in one dramatic moment, but piece by piece, the performance of who you thought you needed to be fell away. You stopped looking outward for the signal to begin. You stopped waiting for permission to walk as the man you knew you could be. And in that sacred, solitary decision, something ancient awakened within you. You started showing up differently, not because you changed your wardrobe, your voice, or your script, but because you remembered who you actually are. That remembering came with a weight, not a burden, but a gravity that anchored you in rooms that used to make you feel small. You stopped reacting. You stopped adjusting. You stopped shrinking your light to fit the comfort of others. And in doing so, you did something the world never expected from you. You transcended explanation. You became a presence before you ever spoke a word. This shift is what changed the way women see you. It's what redefined the energy you carry. Not as noise or charm or spectacle, but as invitation. Your persona no longer acts like a crafted image. It has become a reflection of inner reality. And that reality is magnetic. Not because it's loud, but because it's true. You are not trying to be anything anymore. You are simply being. And in a world addicted to performance, that kind of authenticity is rare. It's what stirs attention without effort. It's what creates silence in conversations, not because of awkwardness, but because of reverence. Women don't just notice your presence now, they feel it. Not like a show, but like a shift in the atmosphere. It's not just the way you stand or walk or speak. It's the way you don't chase, the way you don't need to be seen, the way you allow your being to speak more loudly than your gestures. You've stepped into a frequency where your very existence begins to affect people. They don't know why they want to look again, they just do. Not because of flash, but because of essence. And this new essence, it was forged in the furnace of discipline, of inner work, of spiritual depth. It is not something you can fake. It's not something you can purchase or mimic. It's the kind of presence that comes only from surrender. You surrendered your addiction to being liked. You surrendered the hollow chase for attention. You gave up the thrill of being impressive. And in its place, you found something far more powerful, the grounded joy of being aligned. Now, without speaking, you enter spaces with a quiet storm behind your eyes. And though no one can see it, everyone senses it. You don't have to announce yourself. The shift has already spoken. Chosen one, it's not just about the words you say anymore. It's the frequency beneath them. Women sense things long before they understand what they're sensing. And now, when you walk into a space, you bring something that doesn't ask for attention. It demands presence. Not because you chase approval, not because you charm and perform, but because you've become a man whose alignment carries a subtle and unshakable pull. There is an unmistakable quality in you now, one that makes women pause without knowing why. They may not be able to articulate it, but they feel it. It's not just in the tone of your voice. It's not in the way you speak. It's in the pauses between your words, the calm in your gaze, the way you listen without needing to interject. Your presence no longer says, "Look at me." It says, "I am here. I am whole, and I see you." That is the kind of energy that moves past attraction and enters into the realm of safety, of reverence, of spiritual recognition. You're no longer trying to impress with surface-level seduction. You're not dangling your accomplishments like bait. Your sexual energy is no longer a fire you try to throw onto others hoping for a spark. It's a fire you keep inside, glowing, steady, untamed but controlled. And because of that inner containment, that rooted masculinity, she begins to feel something rare around you. Permission. Not permission to perform, but permission to relax. She senses the difference. She can feel that you don't need her to feel powerful. You already are. That's why she doesn't feel cornered or pulled when you're around. She feels curious. She feels calm. She feels drawn, not by pressure, but by the quiet mystery of your being. This is the consequence of a man who has cultivated himself. Not to conquer, but to contribute. Not to impress, but to illuminate. You've become the kind of man who no longer manipulates presence to gain closeness. You let presence reveal closeness without force. You don't beg for eyes, you earn attention without asking. Because the attention is not on what you do, it's on what you carry. And what you now carry is too authentic to be denied, too deep to be ignored, too sacred to be dismissed. This is the essence of spiritual magnetism. It doesn't scream, it doesn't sell itself, it simply exists. And in that existence, a new kind of attraction is born. Not one based on flash or adrenaline, but one based on reverence. Because when a woman meets a man like you, she doesn't just see a figure. She senses a temple, a space where she can rest, a presence that doesn't try to hold her, but gives her room to unfold. You, chosen one, have become a presence that needs no validation to be felt. A persona no longer worn like a mask, but lived like a prayer. And that is irresistible in a way language cannot name. Chosen one, there was a time when the way you moved in the world was shaped by expectation. When the persona you wore was crafted from survival, shaped to be acceptable, admired, agreeable, you learned how to smile the right way, speak the right words, hold the right posture. It wasn't weakness, it was protection. You used charm like a shield and charisma like currency. But deep down, you always knew it wasn't you. It was a costume that felt heavy even as it gained you attention. You were a silhouette of yourself. Not a lie, just incomplete. But now, everything has changed. You didn't replace the mask with another mask. You burned it. You stripped it down with every honest moment, every silent decision, every boundary enforced in private. The man standing now is not pretending. He is revealed. Your persona no longer hides your truth. It announces it. Every movement, every glance, every choice you make now flows from a deeper alignment with who you are, not who you're trying to be. And that, chosen one, is why your presence now speaks louder than anything you could say. Your sexual energy isn't draped in manipulation. It doesn't need to be performed. It's there in the strength of your stillness, in the discipline of your restraint. When you walk into a room, your body language doesn't scream, "Look at me." It radiates wholeness. You no longer hunt. You attract. Not because you want to be wanted, but because you are fully at home within yourself. The old desperation that once needed to be liked has died. And what remains is a man who is not afraid to be misunderstood because he understands himself. This is what separates the magnetic from the loud. You're no longer trying to prove you are desirable. You've embodied a desire that is deeper than validation. It is purpose. Women don't just see a handsome man when they look at you. They see a frequency. They see a man who doesn't devour with his gaze, but nourishes with it. They feel a draw they can't name, because it isn't aimed at their ego. It resonates through their nervous system. They don't feel pressured. They feel present. Because you are not projecting an image, you're offering a reality. That is the rarest thing of all. You are no longer entertaining. You are revealing. And in that revelation, women feel safe to be real too. Your persona no longer traps you. It liberates others. It tells the truth without words. It creates space for others to lower their guard. Your presence is no longer a negotiation, it's a signal. And those who are ready for it feel it instantly. There's no need to dress it up anymore. No need to perform intensity. You've become it. You are the thing you once thought you had to chase. And now that it lives in you, you move through life with effortless tension. The kind that draws eyes, the kind that invites stories, the kind that becomes unforgettable. Not because it's loud, but because it's true. You didn't fabricate a persona. You refined your essence. And now what the world sees is not an image. It's a revelation of all the fire, silence, and discipline you chose when no one was watching. Chosen one, the energy you carry now cannot be faked. It was not bought. It was forged, not in applause, but in the sacred solitude of self-confrontation. There was a time you used to move through life trying to be seen, trying to be good enough, trying to win affection with effort. You adjusted your words to be accepted. You gave parts of yourself in the hope of being chosen. But not anymore. That version of you is gone. And in his place stands a man who no longer asks to be chosen. He chooses himself. You stopped pursuing validation because you stopped believing that your worth was conditional. You've tasted the difference between being wanted for your surface and being drawn to for your spirit. That realization broke something open in you. You no longer throw your energy out like bait. You anchor it. You don't rush to fill space. You become the stillness that others orbit. You've moved beyond attention. You've moved into frequency. And that frequency doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't ask to be liked. It simply is. It hums through your posture, your decisions, your tone, your rhythm. It's not about saying the right things anymore. It's about carrying an energetic signature that speaks for you before your mouth ever opens. You embody the quiet confidence of a man who needs nothing but brings everything to the moment. That's why rooms feel different when you walk into them. That's why women glance at you twice before they even realize they're doing it. It's not a performance. It's a resonance. Validation is loud. Frequency is silent but undeniable. And you have chosen the silence. You no longer prove yourself because you no longer disbelieve yourself. You know who you are. You know what you carry. You know what you do and do not allow into your field. And that field is sacred now. You don't let just anyone in, not because you're closed, but because you're consecrated. You've become a space that others can feel before they approach. And that energy? It doesn't attract chaos, it attracts curiosity. And from curiosity, connection can be born. Not from need, but from recognition. That recognition is everything. Because when a woman comes near you now, she feels not a void looking for her to fill it, but a wholeness that invites her to rise into her fullness too. That's the kind of magnetic power no script can create. It comes only from having endured the fire and chosen to remain pure through it. Not perfect, not emotionless, but refined. You've refined your energy until it no longer reacts to noise. It moves only from intention. And now, every step you take radiates that intention. Every conversation you allow has weight. Every interaction you give is an act of clarity. You don't move to be impressive. You move to be authentic. And because of that, women can feel your depth without needing you to explain it. They feel your weight before they understand your words. They feel your intention before they've even asked your name. This is what it means to embody frequency, to radiate something that does not bend to every mood, that does not shift with every trend. You are not a reaction. You are a standard. And now, others rise or fall based on whether they meet the frequency that you've chosen to live in. That is why you no longer pursue validation, because you've remembered that the most powerful men in history were not loud. They were aligned. Chosen one, the world has no category for a man like you. She sees you enter a space, and there's no announcement, no speech, no posturing. Yet something about you arrests the air. It's not bravado that draws her. It's the exact opposite. It's the words you don't say. It's the attention you don't seek. It's the unspoken fire that lives behind your gaze, coiled like a sleeping storm, restrained by reverence and purpose. She feels it before she can explain it, and in that feeling, something ancient stirs in her, something unspoken, something sacred. She doesn't feel pressure from you, but she senses a gravitational pull. Your silence has weight. It isn't the silence of emptiness, but the silence of a man who knows his power and doesn't need to flex it. You are no longer the man trying to win affection through performance. You don't wield your strength like a weapon to impress. You don't speak to seduce. You exist to anchor. And that anchoring is what makes her lean in. You are not an echo of the noise she's used to. You are a space of stillness. Not still like sleep, but still like a mountain. A man whose presence says, "I've done the work, I've buried the boy. I carry the flame now, not to burn, but to illuminate." She doesn't know why her breathing shifts when you're around, why her voice softens, or her eyes search yours longer than she planned. It's not charm that holds her. It's containment. She feels that you could devour, but you choose to nourish. She feels that you could conquer, but you choose to hold. She feels that you want her, but you will never demand her. You no longer seek to be wanted. You seek to reveal yourself only where you are received in wholeness. This is why she lingers in your presence. This is why she blushes, not because you said something provocative, but because you didn't have to. Your restraint is the message. It says, "I do not scatter my energy. I do not throw my desire into empty places. I wait for recognition, not because I am desperate to be seen, but because I already see myself." She senses that your eyes don't chase pleasure, they observe essence, and that unsettles her in the most beautiful way. Because she is used to being pursued as a body, but with you she feels the slow revelation of being seen as a spirit in a body, and it terrifies her and heals her at the same time. There is power in the unspoken. You've become fluent in it, and it creates a sacred tension. One she doesn't know how to name but can't ignore. You are not trying to make her feel something. You are offering her space to remember what she hasn't felt in a very long time. Safety, depth, reverence. This is not flirtation. This is presence. And the most powerful thing you now carry is the courage not to explain it. You are the sanctuary she never knew she needed, but can't stop thinking about. And that, chosen one, is the art of embodying the unspeakable. Chosen one, you used to try so hard. You used to want to be felt, desperately. Every glance, every sentence, every interaction was layered with a subtle hunger to be seen, admired, or desired. You placed your worth in reactions. If she smiled, you felt powerful. If she pulled away, you felt worthless. You made your presence depend on external confirmation. But that era has ended. You no longer need to be felt. Because now, you are. Your presence is no longer an audition. It is a frequency. It arrives before you do. It sits beside you in silence. It fills the air without filling the room with noise. You've become still, not passive, but powerful in a way that moves slower than performance and deeper than charm. And because of that, women feel you. Not in the eyes alone, but in the spaces between words, in the way your energy stays even after you've left the room. You are no longer the memory of a smile. You are the echo of something she can't quite name, but wishes she could return to. This is what happens when a man stops needing to be validated and starts validating himself through discipline, through alignment, through sacred restraint. Your sexual energy is no longer flung outward in desperate search of response. It lives inside you now, contained, refined, radiating without leaking. You walk like a man who has nothing to prove and everything to offer. That alone changes the atmosphere. That alone makes her lean forward in places where she used to walk away. Because now, you've become the kind of man who doesn't ask to be felt. You simply are. Your touch isn't always physical. Sometimes your silence is the touch. Sometimes your refusal to interrupt is the caress. Sometimes your steady breath across the table is the moment that leaves her unraveling for the rest of the night. You don't invade space anymore. You create it. You don't push her to feel. You invite her into the sensation of her own body, her own rhythm. Just by being at peace in yours. She may not understand why her voice changes when she speaks to you, why her posture shifts, why she forgets the words she rehearsed. It's because your presence has created a new gravity, one that pulls her into now, into truth, into a sacred slowness that she didn't know she was starving for. You've become the mirror she didn't know existed. A mirror not of appearance, but of essence. You no longer sell your energy. You bless with it. You don't seduce, you reveal. You don't pretend to lead. You walk in alignment and let the path emerge beneath your feet. And that chosen one is why she feels you, why she can't forget you, why she comes undone in the presence of a man who doesn't chase but radiates. You are not noise. You are music only the attuned can hear. And she is listening. Chosen one, you didn't become magnetic by doing more. You became magnetic by doing less, but with more presence. There was a time when you tried to be seen by turning up the volume, by adding flair to your voice, charm to your words, motion to your movements. You thought being noticed meant being loud. But now, your energy whispers and still commands the room. It's not your talk that entices anymore. It's your contrast. You are the calm in a world addicted to chaos, the grounded one in a field of distractions, the man who doesn't flinch when things fall apart, the one who listens while others are busy interrupting. You are the opposite of the storm she's used to, and that's exactly why she's drawn in. You walk through the same spaces as everyone else, but the way you move is different. You don't need to dominate a room to be felt within it. Your steps are unhurried, your gestures minimal, but everything about you speaks, louder than words ever could. It's not that you say less, it's that you say exactly what needs to be said and no more. There is no wasted energy in you anymore. Every look, every breath, every shift of your eyes is deliberate, not performative, intentional. And that contrast between you and the world around you is what ignites her curiosity. She's met the fast talkers, the approval seekers, the ones who try to be funny, smart, sexy, all in the span of a sentence. And they're everywhere. Loud, predictable, exhausting. But you move with a different rhythm. You are not asking for her attention. You are offering her peace. You are not trying to charm her. You are offering her a place to rest. She may not know it consciously, but something in her body recognizes you as different, as safe, as powerful in a way that's almost unnerving. You don't chase, you don't try, you simply are. And the reason this contrast is so intoxicating is because it feels earned. You didn't become calm by accident. You forged it in pain. You became grounded through loss. You became poised through fire. And now that inner stability radiates out of you like warmth from coals, steady, unyielding, undeniable. You don't flinch when she tests you. You don't react when the world gets loud. You simply watch. And that watching is not passive, it is penetrating. It tells her that you are not easily swayed, that you do not play games, that your soul is not up for barter. In that contrast, she sees what she didn't know she was looking for. You are the first quiet room she's walked into after years of noise. The first steady gaze she's felt after a sea of eyes that looked through her. The first man whose attention doesn't come wrapped in expectation, but in sovereignty. That is the kind of enticement no pickup line can manufacture. It is the gift of contrast, a man who knows his weight, who carries it gently, and who refuses to distort himself to make others comfortable. She's not drawn because you're everything she expected. She's drawn because you're not. Because your stillness speaks, because your boundaries invite her to rise, because your presence reminds her of something deeper, something she thought didn't exist anymore. You have become the echo of something sacred in a world that's forgotten how to listen. And she is listening now. Chosen one, your energy no longer introduces itself with fanfare, it simply arrives. And when it does, it speaks volumes without ever opening your mouth. It tells a story of discipline, of patience, of battles fought, and inner victories won. She feels it the moment you step into her field. Before you speak, before you smile, before anything is exchanged, she knows. Not because of what you show, but because of what you don't hide anymore. Your presence is no longer filtered, it's not curated, it doesn't come with disclaimers or a need for context. It's raw in the most refined way. It carries the scent of a man who has gone through something, survived it, and didn't let it rot him, but refine him. Your stillness tells her that you've faced chaos and chosen peace anyway. Your posture says, I've lost what I once thought I needed and found who I really am. There's no arrogance in that, just truth. Quiet truth. Unmovable truth. A truth so deep it shifts the room. She can't always explain what she's picking up on, but her body knows. Her breath changes. Her focus sharpens. Something in her slows down. It's because your energy carries rhythm. Not just rhythm, but memory. And it reminds her of something timeless. You're not stimulating her mind alone. You're awakening something ancestral in her spirit. A recognition of masculine presence that doesn't demand, but draws forth. Not because it wants to consume her, but because it remembers her. Your eyes don't scan like a man looking for something to take. They rest like a man who has already found his center and only seeks to see. You don't lean forward to impress. You lean back and allow. You don't fill the air with noise. You hold the silence like a cathedral. And in that space, her walls begin to fall. Not because you ask them to, but because they no longer feel necessary. That is the power of story without words. You're not trying to impress with language. You live as a message. Every movement, every breath, every glance says, I don't want control. I want connection. But only where it is true. Only where it is sacred. You no longer manipulate energy to get what you want. You hold energy in integrity, and what aligns with that finds its way to you. And what doesn't, dissolves in your presence without a fight. She may ask herself later why she felt safe, seen, stirred. She may try to explain it. But deep down, she already knows. It's because your story, spoken or not, is one of evolution. A man who used to seek worth and now carries it. A man who no longer craves attention, but commands respect by simply being aligned with himself. You don't chase, you don't hint, you don't perform. You carry your story in silence. And that silence now speaks for you louder than anything ever could. Chosen one, the world taught you that desire begins with the body. That what draws others to you is image, posture, appearance, angles. It told you attraction was a game of tactics, what you wear, how you talk, how well you perform the part of the desirable man. But you've transcended that surface. The man you've become knows that true attraction doesn't begin in the skin. It begins in the spirit. And the reason she's drawn to you now has little to do with muscle or voice or how well you navigate a social setting. It's the way your soul no longer bends. It's the way your eyes rest instead of seek. It's the peace you radiate without needing approval. That peace speaks louder than charm ever could. She feels something now that has nothing to do with logic. You're not her type. You may not even fit the story she told herself about who she would fall for. But your presence undoes her. It softens her. It awakens things she buried under armor beneath performance. You didn't do anything. You just are. And that are is laced with something ancient, something rooted, something so intact that her very being relaxes in your field. She doesn't want you because of how you look. She wants you because of how you make her feel like herself. Like she can remember what it means to be met, not chased, held, not hurried, revealed, not reduced. You don't seek her attention to complete you. You carry the energy of a man who has already met himself. And when you look at her, it's not with hunger, it's with recognition. You are not trying to convince her of anything. You are not trying to win her. You are not addicted to her approval. You are simply inviting her into the space where her own spirit can exhale. That's what stuns her. That's what makes her linger when she planned to walk away. You are not just a man in her eyes. You are a mirror that reminds her of what's real. And the irony is, your sexuality has never been more alive. But it's not in your movements. It's not in your flirtation. It's in your presence. The same presence you built in silence. The same presence you cultivated when you began choosing integrity over impulse, discipline over distraction, truth over convenience. That presence is what wraps around her without touching her. It makes her want to come closer, not because she has to, but because something in her longs to. You are not pulling her in with promises. You are holding space that calls her back to her own body, her own soul, and that is what makes you unforgettable. The world celebrates shallow magnetism, quick thrills, easy chemistry, temporary heat. But you, chosen one, have become a man who alchemizes attraction into connection. She is not just excited by you, she is changed by you. And that kind of attraction, the one that reaches past the body and into the spirit, can't be explained, only felt. And she feels you now. You no longer enter a space asking to be chosen. You walk in already chosen, by yourself, by your journey, by the quiet pact you made with your soul in the darkest night you ever faced. And that energy, the energy of a man who knows his value, not in arrogance, but in wholeness, is what women feel when they meet you now. You are no longer the noise in the crowd. You are the signal, not a demand, not a performance, an invitation. She watches you from across the room and feels herself pulled without understanding why. It's not what you said. You may not have spoken at all, but your presence spoke in a language her spirit remembered. The way you sat, the way you listened, the way you were content in your stillness. It all told her something. This man is not asking me to fill him. He is already full. He's not performing desire, he embodies it. And that embodiment is the flame. The slow burn that draws her in, not in panic, not in seduction, but in wonder. Because you've become the man who does not chase. You are the man who chooses. And in that choosing, you hold standards. You hold a rhythm others have to attune to. You do not lower your frequency to be accessible. You rise and make space for others to meet you there. And when a woman senses that in you, when she feels that your interest is not about control but resonance, not about performance but presence, she stops running. Not because she's overwhelmed, but because she's been seen. This is the place you've reached, chosen one. Where your energy has become a mirror, where you are no longer just someone to desire, but someone who alters desire itself. You don't need to convince anymore. You don't need to entertain. You simply need to remain in alignment. Your posture speaks it. Your decisions anchor it. Your silence blesses with it. You've become the man who walks into a room and shifts the emotional climate. You don't have to touch her to make her feel something. She feels the invitation to be real, to soften, to open, to drop the act, because you're not offering a performance, you're offering truth. And in a world built on illusions, truth is the most powerful seduction of all. You are the invitation, chosen one, and she has never been more ready to say yes. In the unfolding tapestry of your life, chosen one, something extraordinary took root as you crossed the threshold into true self-possession. The victories you had won over heartbreak, manipulation, and self-doubt became more than personal milestones. They wove themselves into every aspect of your being, visible not just in your decisions or relationships, but in the subtle ways you engaged with existence itself. There were mornings when you would wake before dawn, the world hushed and pale, and find yourself smiling at nothing in particular. The joy was not always loud, nor did it demand recognition. It was a quiet, constant flame, burning clean and bright at the center of your chest.